Welcome back to the Titus Talent podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Reynolds, and I'm sitting here with Regional Vice President at Titus Talent, Ben White. It's good to have you here on the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
How long have we known each other?
This is an easy one for me to remember because it's my wedding anniversary is when you messaged me. So like right. 7 years and a quarter.
And then when did you join?
It'll be 7 years tomorrow.
That is why I brought you here.
Yeah, good.
Happy 7th anniversary, Ben White.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about on the podcast is attracting talent, hiring people, engaging them, retaining them, developing them. Yeah. All of that kind of the talent journey.
Totally.
We talk about Titus all the time. Like, it's like a bus. Some people are on here for a long time. Some people are a shorter time. 7 years for you. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Twice or more than twice the industry standard, or not even the industry, but just employment. People stay in a company for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years. So you're crushing it on that, which I feel really, really thankful for, because you're an amazing leader here at Titus, and one that many people look up to. Tell us about your little journey with us here. Like, what gets you to stay?
Yeah. It's funny because if you had asked me 7 years ago, I would have said it's probably about twice the amount of time I would have been here too. Like, just candidly, right? Like, I'm a millennial. So my thing is, okay, get in, gain the experience, leverage that for the next opportunity. But there's probably a few things that keep me here. But the thing that I like the most probably is the ability to create. Yeah. And that, if you put in work and you make an impact, like, you can grow. So you can control that. I was at previous employers where it didn't matter how good you did. Mm-hmm. Like, the next seat was virtually unobtainable. There was nothing, and there was no bridges to get into different places. So whether you were an A player or a B player or a C player, as long as you weren't a D player, it was somewhat irrelevant.
How inspiring.
It's maddening. It's a maddening place to be. So for me, and the culture is great, the flexibility is great, leadership's great, all that is great, but the ability to make an impact and then see your ability to continue making a larger impact upon that is probably what keeps me. That's
cool. Because, I would say that very much that's how I would describe you, as somebody you're quite creative when it comes to how you lead. Yeah. It's not like, well, give me the manual. How do you want me to do this? Like, you write the manual for yourself. Like, here, I'm going to do this. Here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create this. I'm going to, how you manage, how you lead, how you inspire people, how you develop them. That is something that I would say you're, very much a pioneer in for us. And other leaders in the company go, God, show me your stuff. And you're like, wait, hold on a second. I'm not showing you my secret stuff here. Then, opening up your playbook to other leaders who are actually modeling certain things off of what you've done, I think is awesome. And I feel really, really thankful and proud of you for some of those things. When you look back on the last 7 years, what would be one thing that you are most proud of as far as you're creating the playbook, as you say?
Most proud is probably the way the leaders under me lead, right? Like, if I was to look back and just be like, wow, the leaders I've been able to surround myself with, and then watching them take care of their people and watching them elevate their game and explore new things. I think that's probably what I'm most proudest of, either that or, right around almost 7 years ago now, 6.5, starting this team with like me and like one other person. Yeah. And now it's a large team. And watching that's probably basically creating this region out of nowhere to a degree. Totally, now it's its own thing, and that's kind of cool.
I remember sitting actually in this office. I was sitting in that corner room on the phone with you, and you're like, I want to know exactly what this roadmap's going to look like. You're like, okay, when would I get this point? When would I get promoted here? What will this look like? How would I get to this point? And you wanted dates, you wanted timelines, and I was like, oh, you put me in I don't know how to answer this one. I'm like, if you do it and you prove it, the path will be there for you. And it was like, some ambiguity of some like trying to woo you into believing that there was an opportunity here for you.
Yeah. Well, and I will be honest now, seven years forward, like some of that, like, hey, you need dates and you need roadmaps would be my better half, who is a lot better at details than me going, well, what would be the plan? What's the long-term plan, Ben? What's step 2, 3, and 4? I'm
If only
like,
I would have known, I would have called her up. I'm like, all right, tell me what you want to know. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm tired of being the middleman. I'm just going to get Jonathan and Velli on the phone and have you guys hammer it out. Let me know what you guys come to a conclusion with.
I love it.
Yeah, no, but I still remember you saying to me, yes, there is an opportunity here, but you have to come in, prove you can recruit.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty confident about that. And then also win the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
Which I just think is such an interesting way to like welcome someone in the organization. And like, that's an end goal. It's like, you have to be good at this, but you also have to make it so that people believe in you and that you're the right person for this. And I think sometimes that's assumed, but I like the way that you said it. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I think leadership is influence, and we can gain influence or we can lose it by our character, by the things we do, the things we say, or the things we don't do and things we don't say.
Yeah.
And you can't please everyone, you know? That's another part as well. I think we're humans, we fail. I mean, like I got some major failings in my life.
Yeah.
And I would dread to, it's not like I come on this podcast to talk about them.
Right,
But it's like, oh my gosh, like trying to figure out how to navigate leadership and keep people who you want to lead, keep their influence and win their hearts. And again, I think that's something you've done really well. And we can't do it with everyone, and we're not going to get everybody to like be hook, line, and sinker following us. But ideal team player. Lencioni talks all about it in the Ideal Team Player book. Yeah. But what would be Ben White's ideal team player description? Put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
If you're looking for leaders on your team, what characteristics, values, things like that are you looking for?
Yeah, well, and I love that book, by the way. Mm-hmm. And I have, like, for every interview I've done since I've been here, probably for the last 5 years, I've asked 2 of his questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I always ask, how hard did you work as a teenager? What annoys you about people? And how do you deal with them?
Yeah.
I think there's like, how do you handle giving and receiving apologies? And like, I know that in the interview, people aren't expecting that. Like, they came into an interview, like, talk about my recruiting experience. And I'm like, how do you say sorry?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? So I said, but for me, I look for hardworking.
Yeah.
I want people who are motivated and driven.
Yeah.
And I want good teammates. I want people who can compete with you, but be genuinely happy for you to succeed.
Yes.
So come on. Those are really important to me, because I think as a leader, you need to choose the right people.
Yep.
You need to equip them, and then you need to create an environment in which they want to stay. And if you don't have good teammates, it is going to be really hard to create an environment in which people want to stay. Like, virtually impossible, because you could do all the right things, but you have a couple people who are just really poor teammates by whatever your definition is, it's going to complicate your life as a leader.
Well, I will just endorse you publicly on here, as I've reached out to some of your team members, and I've asked them, hey, would you consider doing this? Would you different things in our company over time, over the last year? Multiple times, people say, I wouldn't leave Ben White.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving his leadership. And then multiple layers down that as well for some of your direct reports.
Yeah.
Their direct reports, I'm like, hey, would you want to come and do this? Would you want to explore this? Would you want to apply for this position internally?
Yeah.
And the result, the response was, no, I'm not leaving so-and-so who reports to you. I'm like, golly, this goes deep, this depth of culture, sort of subculture, or a depth of loyalty, depth of commitment to what you guys are doing there. And I know it's a part of the whole big picture as well. It's not like it's a separate company, but I'm like, oh man, do I feel proud of that? I think many leaders struggle to replicate or duplicate to multiple layers. Yeah. And that is something that if you can, as you say, take those values and actually pass them through the sort of sub-organization of what you're leading, amazing. What would you say is advice to somebody who goes, they're listening to that and they're like, I don't do that very well. How do I get better at this?
At creating an environment people want to exist in?
Like multiple layers down, where people say, like, your direct reports say, I wouldn't leave Ben. Their direct reports say, I wouldn't leave Derek or Tiffany or whatever. Their reports saying, I wouldn't leave this person. Like, that is amazing.
Yeah, that's hard. There's not like hey, here's a line or two, and if you do these things, you could do that. But I think it starts with like choosing the right people, because leading is hard. not everybody wants to be a leader. Some people are willing to step into the seat without actually having a passion for it. And I think that's step one is you like need people who genuinely care about it and care about their people. Like, because I think without that, you're not going there's no hope in getting that loyalty. So I think, I think that's a huge part of it is choosing the right people and again, kind of equipping them. And it's hard. It's hard. I think it would be hard to redo and do all over again.
Yeah.
Fun, but like it would be challenging. There's probably a lot that goes into it. It's not a great answer.
Well, if you were to start over again, I bet you'd be thinking real hard about what was it I did that was the secret sauce here? What are the ingredients to get me to where, that got me to where I was at?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
If I reverse it, what are some of the things that you see in the non-ideal team player that maybe you're interviewing or people who, I'm going to say who are no longer with you, but you're like, that's something that I do not appreciate. And if I could weed that out faster than, anything, what would it be? Yeah.
Well, in some ways, I already have, like, for me, reverse done that because I've looked at it and been like, okay, great teammates are a must.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've personally experienced that a little bit. And when, like, you have teammates who are not good teammates, like, you just go, okay, not again. Can't do that again. And I think that can manifest itself in different ways depending on the person.
Yeah.
So it could be hard to spot, but, when you see people making it all about themselves, for example, and like wanting to like pick themselves up when this opportunity to recognize somebody else, like that's a little thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a symptom, right? And there's probably a whole lot more you're not seeing in that moment.
Yeah.
But that is certainly symptomatic of that type of behavior, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something like as I look in on your team and watch how you interact and how you set kind of tones and culture around, I mean, celebration is really big, celebrating one another's wins. I know it's one of our definitions of one of our core values as a company, but like you do this really well of celebrating one another's wins, and without reveling in their losses. We talk about that,
right?
Like when you see your competition fail or trip up or make a mistake, it's like it's hard not to be like, yes, it's my competition,
right?
You would not want to be on a team, even though you're competing against one another, because there's a high drive.
Totally.
But you wouldn't want that in your team. And I see you created that environment where everyone's just cheering one another on all the time. Incredibly well. Like how did you create that?
Yeah, well, it's a balance too, because I think it's really important to create some level of competition.
Yeah.
Because you're going to bring out the best in people. But I think if you go too far to the right, then you create adversaries and create people who feel like they can only get up by pulling each other down.
Yes.
Whereas what you ideally want is people competing, getting the best out of each other, and then having a real-time knowledge sharing. Yeah. So it's like, this is what allowed me to do this. And then other people can incorporate that. Yeah. So they can continue to compete, but they're elevating each other the entire time.
Yep.
So some of it comes down to choosing the right people again, because it takes a special person to want to beat someone, but then say, hey, here's what I did. You should also do this, and then like risk that person pulling ahead of you. I think there's that, but you have to be careful with the levers you pull, because if you gamify it too hard, you are going to create that environment. And that's something I'm always cognizant of, because you have these 4 different subgroups on a team, and I do want them motivating each other. Yeah. But I also want them to like each other. So like that's important too.
That is tough. I mean, you are incredibly competitive as an individual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like sickly so. Yeah. Sometimes.
How do you, when you know that you are not winning?
Yeah.
Because I've seen you in certain categories and areas where you're like, I'm not winning, and I can see how it drives you nuts.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you don't quit?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to view things with a very realistic lens, because if you're in a game where it's impossible to win, you really can't be that mad at yourself. Then you have to be like, am I doing the best I can? Like, am I competing against myself in a way that here's what's realistic. Am I doing as good or better than that?
Yeah.
There's some things where you can't win in the moment.
Right.
But if you're getting better, if you emerge from whatever time duration that is, a better version of yourself, you're still finding a way to win. So I think for me, it's just an eye on continuous improvement. I want to win everything that I'm in. But if I know I can't, I need to improve.
I mean, you've run marathons.
Yeah.
Do you go into that marathon thinking you're going to come number 1?
No.
So this is a good parallel, right?
Yes.
You're like, okay, But you're trying to beat your best time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like you are going to, that's what your number is, right? Your best time.
Right. Or better than my best time, right? Like I'll set a goal and be like, okay, here's where I want to get.
Beat my best time. Or the person who you roped into running with you and you want to beat them too.
You know what? I don't think I've ever beat a person I've roped into running when we cross at the exact same time.
Really?
Yeah. Like John Melendra's on my team. By most accounts, I am significantly faster than John. But we finished the half marathon at the exact same time.
Can we cut that from the podcast? We wouldn't want that on here. Ben wants it on here, but we're going to cut it out.
Maybe about 1.5 times as fast as John. So just edit that in. But yeah, it was very similar. Yeah.
Okay. So why was it important to you to run over the finish line with somebody that you believed you could totally destroy 1.5 times the speed? Like why was that important to you?
Yeah, no, and John knows I'm kidding, but I don't know. It's like that's a moment in time where it's like me and my friend will accomplish something significant, and John has never run a half marathon before. Yeah, he will never run one again. And in that moment, I think it would make me a pretty lousy friend to care, like, I'm going to cross like a half a second in front of him instead of, hey, we did this together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a huge accomplishment for him. His leg was like given out on him for like the last 3 miles. So yeah, that was just fun.
I know that's just a little bit of a soundbite, but that story right there, from being as competitive as I know you to be, having somebody who's on your team as a leader and a great leader on your team, to do that and to cross the finish line together was more important than even one step ahead, just to be like, ha, like I did it faster than you, because you could have. Yeah. You chose not to. Yeah. And that's a great soundbite as well, as far as a principle of your leadership, that we're winning together. Yeah. That we're going to cross the finish line together. Yeah. That we're not competing with the number one. I didn't even come here to try and compete with the number one runner here, the ultra marathon runner who's going to, we're not going to play that game. The game here is winning together, you and me.
Well, and there's more parallels to leadership in my opinion too, because if we had both started at the same time, and I didn't say, John, I'm going to run with you, there would have been a difference in where we were, and that gap would have increased over time. But like by running at the same pace the entire time, I was able to witness it. I was able to vicariously experience him doing that for the first time. And I think there's a lot of that same joy in leadership. Yeah. Like if you watch your people grow and succeed and achieve is like part of the joy of being a leader. Yeah. To watch someone from their first day and shepherding them to the point where they're leading themselves and they can exist without you being there. Yeah. Like you should take joy in that as a leader, like seeing them like, man, they are crushing it. They did a massive team of their own. I remember when I said, okay, let's make cold calls together. Yeah. And now it's like they're a standalone unit. I mean, if you don't enjoy that, like you probably shouldn't be in the seat.
Well, I think there's so much richness in there of seeing, we talk about, do people get it? Do they understand the job? Do they want to do the job? Yeah. And do they actually have the capacity and the ability to do it? And so you can understand it, want it, and have the ability. And that's another great thing I see in your realm and spheres of the people you're caring for and growing and developing is like, okay, who gets it? Do they understand it? I'm going to keep investing in that so they understand what we're trying to do here. Yeah. Like figuring out that want it, and if we need to tweak it for them or say, hey, let's help you launch you into another thing, go and leave the company. You know? People leave, and but allowing them to leave with dignity and do well at that, and then capacity. Like, which one of those three would you say? So, to people, like investing in helping people understand, helping them grow in the want it, or the capacity to do it. Which one would you say that like that's where if you were going to teach a class on one of those three, which one would it be?
Yeah, I mean, probably capacity to do it by a landslide. I think in some ways it's going to depend on the person because everybody has different capabilities. Yeah. Everybody has different levers that you can pull. There's different things that are going to motivate different people. People are better or worse at different things, but you can motivate people to want to do something, but nothing is more motivating than people wanting to do it themselves. Yeah. And some of that motivating them to do it in the moment is very temporary. Yeah. I think want it. you cannot want something for somebody else. Yeah. You just absolutely can't. Like if I was to teach a class, I would be like, that's the thing you can't do. So if that's not there, like just move on. Yeah. But capacity to do it is so interesting because it's going to change if you do it right. Because if you do it right, they're going to move into another seat, assuming they want it. Yeah. And then you get to go through that journey again and again and again through increasingly difficult iterations. Yeah. So I think how to teach people is, clubhouse leader by a country mile. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What are you seeing as we look forward together, the future, where we've known like explosive growth. Yes. As a company, kind of consistently about 50% every year, which it's no small thing. Right. And in tougher times, we had like the pandemic time where we were like all hold on for dear life, trying to keep everybody having a job. And then the beginning of 2023, we had a bit of a similar season in the first quarter, which was like, oh my gosh, do we, we'd hold on for dear life. When you look forward to the next few years, what are you most excited about? Yeah. For you and the team and people you lead? Yeah, I think like right now, I am excited about not looking past the remainder of this year and like using it to up level. Because there are seasons where you're going to grow outward and there are seasons in which you are going to grow upward. Yeah. And what I don't want is I don't want us looking back at 2023 as a lost year. Yeah. So I'm really excited on how did we get better now? Yeah. And then past that, I'm excited about seeing my future leaders grow. Like I've got to see a little bit of it where I've seen people build out and create their own microcultures and teach, and it's all different and they do it differently, and it's been super exciting, but I think I have another crop of leaders behind them. Yeah. So as we look out at the next couple of years, assuming we're getting better now, because you're going to need that to grow as quickly as you can moving forward, then I'm excited to see people grow into their new roles and succeed. And I think that's incredibly exciting. And growth is exciting to me. Totally. Seeing people grow in their responsibilities, that's incredibly exciting. And I think we have a lot of that ahead of us. But right now it's, well, let's get to the point where the best possible versions of ourselves as we exit 2023. Love it. That's what I'm like. Personal, when you look into remainder of 23 and into 2024, what's a personal, you always got these personal goals you're going for. Yeah. What does that look like for Ben White? So personally, right now, I am, crazy focused on like two things. Yeah. Okay. So when I run, and I run on a treadmill, I don't run outside. Even when it's beautiful, I run inside because I want to spend that time learning. Yeah. So I have a TV in front of me, and I'm watching content where I can learn. Yeah. And it's on one of two things right now. It's on chess, and I'm working to become a much better chess player. Yeah. And it's on YouTube, and it's growing my YouTube. Tell me about chess is fascinating, but talk about YouTube. Super fascinating. For like 2,000 years. I feel like we'll lose a lot of people at this point. Like, I think we're going to end the podcast right now. But let's talk about YouTube. Tell me about the social medias. So, a few years ago, like during the pandemic, I started creating content for LinkedIn, and I started creating videos, and then enough people said, hey, Ben, can you just like have a YouTube channel so I could access this video in the future? So I started that, and it's all around teaching people how to interview, for the most part, and various other, and then some career stuff. But I've been growing that for 2.5 years now. It took me like the first 10 months to get monetized, meaning I got 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, and fast forward 2.5 years from the start, and now I've got about 22,000 subscribers. Every month, I've been 10,000 watch hours. So every single day, people are watching about 350 hours of me talk about various things. Wow. Yeah. So that's exciting. I'm very focused on that. I've got some ambitious goals for the rest of the year. That's really cool. That's really cool. Wow. All right. And then professionally, for you at Titus, what does the future look like for you? So I am really passionate about up-leveling our recruiters, and doing a few things. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about. I'm really passionate about speed right now. So speed is something that me and my team were working on. How do we maintain the level of quality we've established, but do it quicker? Yep. So how do we accelerate that? But also, how do we build relationships with our candidates, our really great candidates who invest a ton of time with us? so that when we're done, and if they don't get the job, they want to work with us.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, I know I didn't get that job, but I am hiring for my team, and I would be crazy to not use you to move forward and build my team.
Great.
And that's what I'm super passionate about right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, lead the charge, man.
Yeah.
As always, you just do a great job of serving well and leading with vision and passion and showing people where you're taking them. So I am really thankful for you on our team and proud to have you here. You make us better for sure. And you got a great team of people following you and lots of wisdom there. And how do people find your YouTube channel?
Yeah. If you just search Ben Talks Talent, it's right there.
There you go. Ben Talks Talent on YouTube.
There you go.
Cool, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
See ya.